This is Anthony Pascal.
And this is Laurie Elster, and this is the All Access Star Trek podcast. We have a lot of cool stuff today because Tony was at the Saturn Awards. So we're going to cover news first, starting with the Saturn Awards, and then we are going to play you a whole bunch of very fun interview clips that Tony got on the red carpet and in the press room. So let's start with the actual meat of the awards and the winners.
Yeah, Star Trek Picard was definitely the big winner. I mean, Picard, Lower Decks, and Strange New Worlds all went into the night with nominations. Picard ended up with 4 wins, including Best Drama Series, where it beat out Strange New Worlds. And that kind of repeated itself, where there was a number of categories where Picard was going up against Strange New Worlds and ended up beating it. That also happened with Best Actor, so Patrick beat out Anson. Frakes won for Best Supporting Actor,
which was lovely and so deserved.
He beat out Todd Stashwick and
Ethan Peck, I think.
Yeah, and and people on non-Star Trek shows, which were nominated as well. And Jeri Ryan won for Best Supporting Actress. She beat out both Jess Bush and Sally Rose Gooding, along with a number of other actresses. And so the one win for Strange New Worlds was Paul Wesley for Best Guest Star, and he ended up beating Amanda Plummer, which is kind of the only award where Strange New Worlds beat Picard.
Yeah.
And Lower Decks, unfortunately, lost the Best Animated Show to one of the Star Wars.
Yeah, was it the Bad Batch?
Bad Batch, yeah.
Yeah.
And then on top of all of that, the entire Next Generation cast won a special Lifetime Achievement Award. Most of them were there, with the exceptions of LeVar Burton and Jonathan Frakes, who's filming. And last week I thought he was filming Strange New Worlds, and I confirmed, yes, he is.
Yep. Episode 4, right?
Yeah. As of last weekend, they were filming 3, but he's prepping 4, basically.
Yep. What was nice to see in that Next Generation Cast Award was to see Will Wheaton with them. And he actually posted something about this on social, but I feel like he gets left out of that a lot. And I think he is an important part of that group. And it was nice to see him up there with all of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, some people were saying Denise Crosby should have been there. She didn't make it through the whole first season. So, I mean, in a way, Diana Muldaur deserves it more than she does.
I was going to say I didn't see Diana Muldaur there either. So
both very vital to the show. But I think it's the main cast and Will, who was in the main cast for multiple seasons.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful honor. There was just a lot of love. I mean, a lot of people who were speaking, doing other stuff, James Cameron, I think, and some other people would talk about Star Trek during their speeches.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of a big Star Trek night at the Saturn Awards.
Yeah, they had Todd Stashwick co-presented with Walter Koenig, which was fun, and their neighbors. So that was cool. So, and, Seth MacFarlane got a big Trailblazer Award, and they had Shatner present it, which was nice, too. There was a lot of Trek love.
It was a great show, and the only downside is it was the first night of just a deluge of rain in Southern California, which you may have read about in the news. It was really pouring. A lot of people didn't want to leave the auditorium at the end because it was pouring so much. It was incredible.
But then it just kept pouring. All I know is the Grammys were the same night, so I'm sitting there watching the Saturns, and then my teenager gets home and says, "Oh, are you watching the Grammys?" And I was like, "Nope." I'm watching the Saturns. Sorry. Can we switch to the Grammys? Nope.
Yes, a little less drama. No one was arrested during the Saturn Awards.
But William Shatner could have been at the Grammys because he was nominated, although he lost to Michelle Obama.
Yeah, well, it's hard to beat that. So, I mean, the red carpet, it's as always, it's a hectic event. It was overbooked, maybe because it was raining. They didn't have a lot of covered area, so there was a lot of jostling, but I still got a lot. I talked to quite a few people on the red carpet, and then the press room later, there were fewer people, and I got a little bit more in the press room where people were coming off stage after they won.
Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff. I mean, it was funny because when you started, I'm watching at home, you're on the red carpet, and you were texting me and you were saying, like, I can't see who's coming towards me. And I'm watching Scott Mantz, our pal, who's interviewing people. So I was like, oh, I can tell you who's coming your way because I can see them on TV.
Yeah, it was so crowded that I had to face one direction back to back with this other reporter. You know, and when you're in there, you just talk to everyone. And you're like, look, we're just going to get to know each other too well.
Yeah.
You know, because you're just literally right up against each other. And so I had to like crane my neck around just to see who's coming. And it was impossible.
Yeah, I was trying to help you. I was like, I see Michelle Hurd. Here she comes. So I was like, I think I see Nicolas Cage. And yes, folks, Tony did talk to Nicolas Cage. You're going to get that at the end.
That was so awesome to talk to Nicolas Cage. And I talked to the Bionic Man and the $6 million man and the Bionic Woman.
I'm so happy. I felt like you did that just for me because you know how much I love the Bionics.
I did. I mean, I didn't talk to them about Star Trek. I just just asked
them
them
a random question. I saw a great picture of Lindsay Wagner with Jeri Ryan together from the awards, and I was like, oh, two amazing female characters. Plus, I have to say, there's a parade of Star Trek actors who were on the Bionic Woman.
Really? That's an interesting angle there.
A ton of them. Like, as I'm watching, sometimes multiple ones in one episode.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, back to Star Trek.
So we'll roll in some audio later. You'll hear some funny moments from the red carpet. But before that, let's get into just some regular old Star Trek news, some of which came out of the Saturn, some of which just came out of the ether, as it were.
Well, the first one came out of my guy, Dax Shepard, his podcast, Armchair Expert, which I love. And I hadn't even gotten to this episode yet. I haven't listened to it yet because he did a whole Fargo week and multiple interviews in a week. And one of them was Noah Hawley. And they were having this nice conversation about what happens when your projects fall through and all of that. And that's when he dropped the bombshell. Noah Hawley said, yeah, I was going to make a Star Trek movie with Cate Blanchett and Rami Malek. Could have had that, America, he said.
Yeah, it was quite snarky when he said it. You could tell, which he's kind of implied before, he's not cool with what happened. Because what happened was, after the first Star Trek 4 movie, which we're about to talk about, fell apart, the one with Chris Hemsworth, they brought in Noah Hawley, and they're like, you write and direct a movie, do anything you want, go nuts. And he did. And he had a whole new idea, and it was going to be a smaller budget, and he was literally in the middle of casting when someone new came in and said, no, we're not doing that. And just shut the whole thing down. But apparently it's not clear if they had been signed or not, but
he said they were in the middle of major casting. So back in the day, he'd said that, and they had a production schedule and all of that. So yeah, he talked about, I mean, it's funny because I saw he was going to be on the podcast, and I know that Dax Shepard is not a Star Trek guy. And so I was like, I don't think he's going to ask about it. So I was surprised that it came up.
Yeah, he mentioned it again a little bit later. This was all in the context on that podcast of, what advice would you give to other creative people dealing with setbacks, because this was a major movie and the rug got pulled out from under him. And he's like, well, luckily I've got Fargo and other things to fall back on. And he's doing fine now. He's making this Alien TV show for FX, which I'm really excited about. So he landed on his feet, but obviously this is a disappointment for him. The way he talked about Rami Malek and Cate Blanchett in a Star Trek movie, I felt his pain. And I I think they're both great. A huge Mr. Robot fan. I think he was great in the James Bond movie. And Cate Blanchett, I mean, what can you say? She's great in everything.
She's great in everything. Now that, and I just feel like he would have made a movie that I would have really liked, because I'm happy with a smaller movie.
Yeah, he's talked about how it wouldn't have been all action. It would have been if you watch Fargo, it's just, it's snappy dialogue and it's a great mix of dark humor, and he's brilliant. And we really missed an opportunity. So I had my own little bit of news related to a dead Star Trek project, and this is the first attempt to make Star Trek 4. So not to be confused with the current attempt and the one when Chris Hemsworth was attached.
Right.
I mean, in a way, that was when things were kind of normal, right? They had announced the movie in 2016. By 2018, they had a director, they had a script, they were going to shoot. Everything seemed like it was fine.
It felt like the natural progression.
Right. And so by that summer, they were getting into casting additional roles. You know, it was reported at the time, Danai Gurira, who's from The Walking Dead. But that year, she was also blowing up because she'd just been in Black Panther and in the Avengers. There was nothing known about it at the time. There was just some reports in the trades. And then within a month, that project just fizzled out because Chris Hemsworth said he didn't want to renegotiate a salary, and that was that.
But you talked to her since she was at the Saturns, and because you got her to verify at least that, like, yes, she was definitely going to be in a Trek movie. She was in talks. She verified, yes, it was the one with Chris Hemsworth.
She seemed really into it. She knew the story. She was really excited about the character. Said it's very different than her. If I had to guess, it'd probably be an alien, maybe a Klingon. She seemed really into it, and would be happy if it happened again. So there's yet another possible pretty cool high profile star that was almost in Star Trek.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating to keep hearing about this. We're like, they have these amazing people who are ready to do it, and then it just falls apart for some annoying reason.
Yeah, I was talking to Michael Giacchino, personal friend of mine. No, he was no, but I know Michael. I've done panels with him. He's a very nice guy. Obviously the composer, Oscar-winning composer of the 3 Star Trek movies. He won an award for his Werewolf by Night thing, which was a live-action Marvel thing he directed last year. And so I said, do you expect to be involved? You know what's going on? And he didn't know what was going on. He said he didn't say he expected it, but you could tell he would be involved as soon as something happens, but no one's told him to start writing anything. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, not a surprise given what we know.
But I also got the sense that he'd like to direct again. He directed a Star Trek animated short for the short treks. But now that he's doing he's directing live action now. That seems to be a big passion for him. I'm not sure he'd be ready to do a feature film, like a Star Trek feature film, but maybe.
No, but an episode. He could do a show episode.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a little bit of, merch news out there. We finally got the announcement for Lower Deck Season 4. It's out now on digital, so Amazon, Apple, whatever. If you buy it on digital, you do get the special features. And Blu-ray and DVD is coming on April 16th. There's a lot of half the episodes have an audio commentary, which I think is cool.
And they got Robert Duncan McNeil for his, which I think would be great.
And a couple featurettes. So the audio commentaries, I think, are the best parts of all of these releases, which is why the Strange New Worlds recent release was not as great because of the strikes. They couldn't record.
Right.
But this one's going to be packed.
Yeah, it looks good. And then there's also this one is sort of hard for me to wrap my head around. So, but it's this Roddenberry archive. So it's a Star Trek spatial experience. It's released for Apple Vision Pro. So you put on your VR headset and you can it's 2 hours of Star Trek spatial experiences. So these 3D environments, they picked a whole bunch of things from, like, there's the Sirtis, like that said, from the cage to Lower Deck. So all of these different Star Trek environments where you can walk around and examine items, sit down, launch a shuttle, they said. And then if you don't, for those of us who don't have an Apple Vision Pro, there are video walkthroughs, and there's also it's free for a little while, like a live 2D stream.
They previewed it last year. I think we talked about it last year, and it was, millions of people visited it, and then they shut it down. When they announced it last year, we didn't know it was a preview. So people were like, what happened to that website? Because they had it up for a month, and then
they never really said what it was. It was just confusing. We're like, but what is it?
Well,
So-
now it's clear what it is.
Yes.
It's a virtual reality Star Trek experience where you could visit starships and examine them. And there's the sounds and everything, and it's extremely immersive experience. It's actually both VR and AR, because VR is virtual reality where you're completely within that environment. AR is when you're looking through the goggles at your environment, your house, but there's things that you could do, in your house where you could place things. So you could put a model of the, Enterprise in your living room and spin it around and just put it there, and it'll stay where you put it, and many other objects. And you could examine them, but you'd be that's augmented reality.
right.
The thing about it is Apple Vision Pro starts at $3,600. So this is not exactly a, high volume item, but they are looking to expand into other, VR goggles. And so this is, I think, just the beginning of even more of this kind of stuff. And I think it's pretty cool. And
I think it would be
free,
cool if they
too.
had like a setup at conventions where people could go try it out. That would be really, really fun.
Well, they had a bit of a kind of a demonstration in Vegas last year, but there was no
It wasn't
goggle.
like this. Yeah.
No, it was screens. There was maybe this year they'll do it with the goggles. That would be cool.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Because then you get the full experience. You're not watching something on a screen.
Absolutely. Speaking of cutting edge technology, William Shatner was asked an interesting question about, how would you feel about an artificial intelligence version of James T. Kirk, an AI Kirk, being, put into Star Trek? And he's cool with it, except he wouldn't want it to happen before he's dead.
Right. And he wants to make sure his family gets paid a lot of money.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a given.
Well, that's what some of the issues that came up during the strike had to do with that, with making sure that people get compensated. But yeah, after he's dead, he's all in.
I mean, I think it's inevitable, if not him, someone.
Yeah, I actually don't want any of it. I don't want anyone doing it. If someone's gone, they're gone. And if you're making something now, then hire people to do it.
Well, I was thinking of that episode that our friend Aaron Watke painstakingly put together, the Kobayashi episode of Prodigy. Mm-hmm. And he did it by stitching together clips and bits of those people. But sometimes the audio didn't exactly, because the audio quality is different. And so sometimes it was just obvious that these were clips and bits. And I would have been fine if that scene was done with AI voice work, where you had someone, the AI, create Nimoy's voice saying whatever you wanted with his family's approval.
I prefer it the way that it was.
Okay. I mean, he had to recreate the story to match the clips instead of the other way around.
I thought that was fascinating. I was so interested in that whole process. And I would have loved to have been like going through all the stuff, trying to find things and making lists of lines that I thought could work and then putting it together. That whole thing just fascinated me. And I loved listening to it and trying to guess. Like, oh, I remember what that line's from and all of that. So that was fun.
It's happening. It's happened with Star Wars. It's happening. We're going to see it in Star Trek. We're going to see a deceased or someone who's too old. We're going to see a performance recreated in AI, I think, within a decade in Star Trek.
Well, I don't have to like it, is all I'm saying.
I'm okay with it. As long as the family's okay with it, it's done with respect and dignity, which I think it would be. I think it's fine. But I wouldn't want, like them to do a whole movie with the character,
yeah.
Or something. It'd have to be like a little thing.
Don't like it. All
right.
All right. Well, I think we should move on to your Saturn interviews because you talked to so many people about so many cool things. We're going to roll in audio. And I think we should start with Doug Jones, who was talking all about Discovery wrapping up. So let's have a listen to that conversation.
Hi, TrekMovie.com.
So, have you come to grips with Discovery ending?
Well, I kind of had to. I had no choice, right? But there's a part of me that's melancholy that we're going to be, fifth and final season. Nobody wants to hear final. But at the same time, I think in this day and age, to get 5 seasons is really good with the television the way it is now, and it has many platforms as mature as there is out there. So, but the other part is a bit of relief. I was just talking about memorizing science fiction dialogue and large blocks of it. That's very difficult, and so I don't have to do that anymore. Oh, go, yay! And I also, the rubber bits, wearing Saru comes. I love Saru. He's a part of me now, but he also comes with a look that's glued onto me. And taking that off for the last time was like, oh, that's good. I don't have to wear that again.
But, well, then you did have to wear it again.
Well, then when we came back, yes. We did come back to do a short epilogue that'll be tacked on to the end of the last episode to give you some closure on the entire series, yes.
Do you feel that, Michelle has talked about how season 5 is, I think she's called it a pivot in tone. It's more fun and adventurous, a little more episodic. Did you feel shooting it that it was very different?
Yeah, well, yes. It was especially different for me, too. As Saru has gone through so many changes throughout the entire series. My rank has changed and gone up. My title and my position on the bridge or not the bridge, I've been all over the place. Season 5, even more changes afoot for Saru. A very dignified change for him. I can't tell you what I'm going to be or do, but so the tone for me personally, yes, did change intensely. And it also, this has a very sentimental vibe to it, more than the other seasons have, especially as we come to the end.
This change, the synopsis for the season premiere, which comes in April, is out. I think it said something to the effect of Saru gets an offer, some special offer.
I get an offer for a position within Starfleet, and what will that be? And will I accept it? Those are questions you have to find out in that first episode.
Which I guess, I've always said, how many captains can you have on a ship, right? So
that was That was my personal dilemma. It's like, well, we have a captain, Burnham, and we have a captain, first officer. Is that the best use of a captain within Starfleet?
Now, you said you're slightly relieved, but they are making another show, the Academy show.
Right.
I mean, let's say they wanted Professor Saru to show up.
Yes, Starfleet Academy, I hear, it's in our same timeline, so that's the one show that I could cross over and guest star. Any of us could. Will we? I don't know. What the writers have in mind, I don't know. But I think Saru would have a lot to offer, a class of kids, wouldn't he? With his wisdom and his instructional ways. He's been that way on the bridge of Starship Discovery anyway.
Well, Tilly and Saru had that kind of dynamic, and she's back, but she was at the Academy. So is he still mentoring her, or is she past that?
Well, she doesn't need Saru to be a mentor in that way. I think they still have a father-daughter kind of relationship anyway. It's very sweet. But he's very proud of her, and she's coming to her own now. She doesn't need to lean on him as much as she did.
So he did spill some stuff, maybe, without kind of realizing it. Because, we'd been talking last week. We knew that in episode 1 of season 5, Saru gets an offer. An offer he can't refuse. Whatever, an offer. And he verified. We were saying, maybe it's, with his girlfriend. But he said it was an offer within Starfleet. And then it gets resolved in the first episode.
I think he gets offered another ship. Like the USS Enterprise. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing.
Right.
But they're finishing, they're painting it or whatever, and it's not going to be ready for the amount of time it would roughly take 10 episodes.
Yes, exactly. Because, you guys talked about the weirdness of having 2 captains.
So he's basically saying, it's a waste of Starfleet resources. Now, the other obvious thing is they make him an admiral, and now the way I asked about the Starfleet Academy thing sort of eliminate, because you think he would have said something if he was offered a position at Starfleet Academy, because they could have done that.
Yeah.
But it seems like, I think I would have noticed if I nailed it by asking about Professor Saru, and that was the last scene of Saru was Professor Saru. I think I would have spotted it in his eyes if I guessed. Right.
Right. But he did verify what we already knew, which is that Starfleet Academy definitely takes place in the Discovery era, which we knew but didn't have officially.
He probably doesn't even realize that he spilled that and it's not really a spill because everyone just assumes that.
Right. We all knew. But you guys, anyone could cross over. It's true. So they can bring in anyone.
I like what he said about Tilly. I mean, we've had a lot of questions about what's the deal with Tilly. She was gone. Now she's back. Why is she back? What's she back like? So it sounds like a kind of more grown up, fully realized person. It's just going to be kind of a different character this season.
Yeah, I was relieved because I was worried he was going to say, oh, she's not really in it this season.
I mean, I think she's main cast. That's the way they've described her. She's in the cast photo, whereas, the villain guest stars aren't there, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm just always worried because I love her.
And I liked what he had to say about his character and verifying how it's a different season, especially for his character. But in general.
And he's always such a sweetie to talk to.
He is. He was so nice. And he was wearing a crazy outfit.
Yeah, of course he was. I love it. He's a snappy dresser. All right. So next up, we have Paul Wesley. Let's listen to it.
You just did 1 in the first season. You did 3 in this?
Yeah, I think it was 3 or 4. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
How did you feel like you needed to get that 1 under your belt to kind of get used to it, and was it too weird because they kept on saying, well, this isn't the real Kirk either?
Yeah, I felt, to be honest with you, what I liked was that it kind of wasn't the real Kirk. In the first episode, so I was like, okay, let me get my footing, let me see what's happening here, because this is really not a Kirk that this is a Kirk that exists in an alternate reality. And I think once I got a little settled, then I approached season 2 in a completely different way, and I was able to just sort of maybe learn from those mistakes. And I love, for me, Kirk evolves, and Kirk is constantly evolving, and he is evolving because he's growing up. He's not the Kirk that we know from the original series, and so I'm able to sort of do things that perhaps an actor wouldn't be able to do if it was in the same exact time period, and so I'm really grateful for that I can sort of gradually grow into the character.
And are you recurring again in season 3?
Yes.
Have you had a chance? I think they're doing episode 3 now.
Yes, exactly. I think they're in the middle of shooting episode 3.
Have you already had a shot, or are you coming up, or?
I'm not allowed to quite say.
Are you doing more or less episodes, or about the same?
I'm not allowed to.
Not allowed to say. All right. Okay. Well, let's try this one. I mean, Kirk is such an iconic character, but there's almost a cliche of Kirk. And some people have noted that there's elements in your performance, especially we're showing how smart he was and playing chess and stuff like that. Was that something you kind of researched and looked into?
Yeah, so there's a great book called The Autobiography of James T. Kirk that I've read that actually sort of goes into Kirk as as more of it humanizes him in many ways. And I'm not suggesting he wasn't humanized in the original series, but there was something, he was very evolved, and it was very much an episodic show. And so you weren't the Kirk in season 1, episode 4 was very similar to the Kirk in season 2, episode 3, and so what I loved about the Autobiography of James T. Kirk, and what I loved about sort of looking into canon and sort of memory alpha and studying all those things, was that Kirk really was sort of a bookworm, and he was a very serious guy at times, and he was also had a lot of charisma and all that. But I think I wanted to explore those layers and do something different. I wanted to do something that perhaps people didn't automatically think of when they thought of James T. Kirk.
Now, some people think that your recurring role is like the longest backdoor pilot for your own show. So let's say Henry or whatever, they roll through a few years of Pike, and then they're like, it's time for you to take over. Would you do a series regular starring role?
First of all, I would 100% do a series regular starring role, 1,000%. But I think Star Trek Strange New Worlds the pre-Enterprise is so fascinating. It's so well done. It's a huge hit. Anson Mount is brilliant. And I don't think that show's going in. I don't want that show going anywhere anytime soon. And I think it would be something that, who knows, maybe it'll happen. But I don't think it would happen, certainly anytime in the next. I think there's a long sort of road to explore here with Strange New Worlds, and I'm just really happy to be a part of it.
Pike has as they would say, a heart out, as it were.
That is true. He does have a heart out. That is true. But who knows? I don't know when that is. You know what I mean? But yes, he does have a heart out, as we all know.
And you're ready to step into the chairs.
I'm ready, but also very happy to be where I am now, exploring, Kirk on Strange New Worlds.
Any fun Scotty Kirk moments? Because he's there now too, right?
Scotty's there, although I have not had any moments yet.
No miracle worker moments yet.
Not yet.
All right, so we kind of got some news, sort of, from him too. Because now we know, we knew he was recurring in season 3. It's verified, and that he said he hadn't done any scenes with Scotty yet, as we heard. I have to say, the thing I liked about what he talked about with Kirk was that he has taken such a serious approach to learning the depths of who this character is. And there's so much talk about Kirk these days, about Shatner's Kirk, and how, I have often felt that he's been misunderstood and sort of seen as a certain type, that I think he's so much more than that. And I'll tell you, Paul Wesley obviously feels the same way.
Yeah, he gets it. Kirk is a smart guy. He's not just this womanizing, guy who speaks in this staccato way. He really, I think he gets the character, the way he talks about it. He's put a lot of thought into it. He takes this quite seriously, which is no surprise. The guy has been around. He's a good actor. It's interesting how I don't know if he admitted, but he basically said he got better in season 2. And I think I would agree with that at the character.
Well, and also I felt like I understood his choices more. Look, I still wish they weren't putting the character in that show. I don't think they need it, but I appreciate that he really cares about it. He read the autobiography of James T. Kirk. That he didn't have to do. No.
I do feel like they haven't really ever said to him, someday you're going to star in a Star Trek show as Kirk. Because, conspiracy theory would be, and certainly there was a period where people were like, when he was announced, people were like, what about Pike? This is clearly Pike's show, but we all know that James T. Kirk is going to be the captain of the Enterprise someday, so maybe that is where things head. But it doesn't sound like there's a plan in place for that.
No, and I hope there isn't, honestly. My Strange New Worlds, I think, is at its best when it's not leaning on all the existing stuff. And so the idea of redoing original series to me makes no sense at all. And I'd so much rather they tried something new.
I get it.
Yeah.
That was it for Strange New Worlds conversations that I had. I had a lot more conversations there about other things, legacy and stuff. But let's roll in my conversation with Tawny Newsome, where we talk about Lower Decks Season 5 and Starfleet Academy Season 1.
Yeah, it was a great interview. Have a listen.
TrekMovie.com.
Good to see you guys. How are you?
Always great. Last time we talked to you was a few months ago. You had just started recording again. Are you still recording for Season 5?
What am I doing? I am recording. I think I'm done with Season 5. I had to mentally be like, did I do Episode 10? I did. There's going to be ADR and stuff we have to redo once it's animated, but the bulk of the recording is in the can.
I know you're not Mike, but what are the chances of it arriving this year? Because I know the strike slowed it down a little bit.
Yeah, but I think we stayed to our I don't know anything officially, but judging by my math, I think we stuck to our production schedule kind of well because we were really ahead before the strike. So when we stopped, and it was interesting because technically we were still allowed to record, but as a cast, being part of a larger franchise of shows that were not permitted to work, it didn't feel right. And so Jack and I and all the other actors, we were torn between not wanting to put pressure on our animators and delay their production timeline, but also really wanting to honor the spirit of the strike, even though we were technically allowed to work. So we did not work during the strike. And I think it still is going to work out, and I'm really sorry to our lovely artists who work on it. If we did put pressure on them, I'm sorry.
So you're done with season 5. Would you say it's more of the same, which is a good thing, or different?
Yeah, it's both. It's more of the same in a good way, but not more of the same in the thing that I think a lot of people were ready to, like, for Mariner especially, to put behind her, which is some of that, like, self-sabotaging energy that she has grown from and put behind her. She's had to embrace the promotion, figure out a way to, you know, be chaotic, but with a little more responsibility and growth.
Okay, let's switch shows.
Okay.
Are you still writing for Academy?
I am indeed. I am very writing for Academy. My brain is smoking right now, writing for Academy. We're in the throes of it, yeah.
But that's still, I think last we heard of it, I mean, they originally planning to shoot early this year. That's not going to happen, or will it?
That, I don't understand how that works. I know when my episode was due. I pay attention to my deadlines. Yeah, I don't know anything about production timelines. That all is new to me.
I mean, last time we talked, you said Trek fans will love it. You know, are you know, and there's canon cops, I think you said, but are Easter eggs is the Lower Decks thing, but is it that kind of thing where there's lots of Easter eggs, or is it more thematically? How is it fit well into Star Trek, I guess?
The thing is, it's not like an Easter egg reference show. That's a very Lower Decks type flavor. I don't think that's anyone's goal in the room. There might still be some, just because a lot of us are fans of Trek, and so they might work their way in when it's appropriate to the story. But in general, our showrunners, Alex Kurtzman and Noga Landau, are very focused on telling stories that really, like, advance this crew of characters that you're going to grow to love. They're young people. That's an age we haven't seen focused on in a Trek cast before. So yeah, I really think it's just about telling stories that feel very real to that age group, but also to people who are starting their career in Starfleet.
There are, I mean, I think you said before the actors, or the characters are kind of high schoolish or early college, but there's...
I think canonically, this isn't me, like, telling tales out of school. Speaking from the entire canon of Star Trek, I believe that the age you can be in the Academy is somewhere around 18. So I think it more resembles like a college age, but I don't know. Don't put that in a headline. That's like, Tawny Newsome says this is a college show, and I'll get in trouble, you know?
But they're major older adult characters, you know, in 30s, 40s, 50s, etc.
I mean, there's going to be, it's an academy, so there are teachers, there are students. I'm being so careful, but I'm like, you know there's teachers, right?
It's still Star Trek, so there's probably spaceships.
I mean, sure.
At least simulated?
Who knows?
Oh, God, you're so good at this.
Well, because I know. You know why I'm good at it? Is because I say something innocuous, and then y'all make it a headline, and then I'm like, well, that's not what I was talking about.
Well, what headline do you want us to say about Academy? What should the fans know?
I love this. Okay, the headline that I want you to say about Academy is... We have a room full of writers who love Star Trek and are trying to tell a Star Trek story in a new way, and we're really excited to do that.
I love that you let her come up with the headline. I thought that was really smart. I mean, she's savvy. She's so fun to talk to, and she plays with you. Like, that's basically, you guys had a little game going, which I liked, where she's like, I don't want a bad headline, and you name your own. So it's great.
Well, this isn't our first rodeo. I mean, certain
right.
people, when they're coming down the red carpet, they see me, they know who I am, they come over, they talk Star Trek.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't use her headline exactly in the article because it didn't fit.
Right.
This was way too long. And it didn't mention anything about Lower Decks because we'd also talked about Lower Decks. So we paraphrased, but on Twitter...
Yeah.
I put her full thing on Twitter and she replied, LOL, with a little, hug emoji or something.
Yeah.
So she appreciated the effort. I think
so too.
I see this comment from other people and I agree with it, which is I'm not really excited about Starfleet Academy except when Tawny Newsome talks about it.
Yeah, same. She suddenly gets me interested.
I do like the idea of a non-starship focused show. Something that they wanted to do for season 1 of Enterprise. obviously Deep Space Nine was based on a space station, but this would be on Earth.
No, and Starfleet Academy is interesting. It's only that we just have a certain sort of type of younger person show that we're all kind of nervous about getting.
She's not sure. I mean, that was the whole thing about, is it college age or not? But it sounds like when she's writing these characters, she's thinking of them as college age, which is good, as opposed to high schoolers. And as she said, there are teachers. It's an academy. Duh.
Yes.
You know, so I'm not too worried about it being high school angst.
No, I actually like high school angst. But I think as long as they don't try, I think my only concern maybe is that they'll try to be too cool. And as long as they don't try to be too cool for school, then maybe it'll be okay. Like I like Riverdale. I don't want Riverdale.
I'm not worried about them trying to be too cool. I mean, the way Alex has talked about it, I think it's going to be very messagey, and I just hope it's not preachy.
Right. Yeah, it might be.
About, the next generation dealing with the mistakes of the last generation as an allegory for young kids today, Generation Z dealing with the mistakes of all us Gen Xers and millennials. And
honestly, like shows like, let's say Supergirl, which I enjoyed very much, by its last season or two just became a preach fest.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fun to watch anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what she said about Lower Decks sounds good. I mean, we always felt that they could pull it off. I thought it was funny how she kind of apologized to the animators because she knows that, they had to work extra hard because they weren't recording until November, really.
Right. Because she didn't want to record during the strike.
I imagine there was plenty of animation work they could do that just wasn't with the characters. They could do the backgrounds and stuff like that, so it's not like no work was happening during the strike, but they couldn't do the character animations, which is a huge part of it.
But maybe we'll still get it on time.
Yeah, I mean, on time, like August, probably not, but, September, October, somewhere in there. That makes sense.
All right, I think it's time to get into our Picard Legacy Next Gen gang.
Yeah, there was quite a lot. I mean, there's kind of two buckets of people. There's the Picard people, and then, and the Next Gen, and I ended up talking to a lot of them, both about Picard and about Legacy, because Legacy is a hot topic.
Yeah, well, let's start with Jeri Ryan.
Do you feel, Jonathan Frakes has said he did his best Star Trek work, even after so many years, in Season 3 of Picard. Do you feel the same with 7, and maybe Season 3 or all 3 seasons?
I think it was some of my best work as this character because we had some of the best writing as this character. I've been so lucky. I mean, she's had such an arc over the years, to start out not even human back 20-something years ago. And to end up where she did as the captain of the Enterprise was a pretty big character growth.
Speaking of that, I've talked to Terry. He's given us the how real it is or isn't. But if it happens, are you ready to lead a show? Are you ready to be the first on the call sheet, captain of the ship?
I have learned one thing with this franchise. It's never say never. So we'll see.
You weren't at Star Trek when Gene was there, but you were there when Jeri Taylor was still around. And what do you think she would think of where 7 has gone and the kind of rejuvenation of these characters?
I think Jeri especially would be thrilled with 7's development. I know that she was a big champion for 7 from the beginning. I think that she would be thrilled that 7 is a bi captain and character. I think that was something that my understanding is that she championed from the beginning as well. And I think just at the time the network felt that they weren't ready for that yet. But so I think she would be thrilled. I hope she would be.
So I have to disagree with Jeri Ryan about her view of her own work. I don't think Picard is her best work, not because I think there's anything wrong with it, but I understand that her experience on Voyager was not positive. And I feel like that is probably why she thinks that Picard was her best work. And she did say she had the most fun. I think the work she did on Voyager was extraordinary. I think she had incredible growth on that show. I think they gave her much meatier stuff than she got to do on Picard. She had episodes where she had to play multiple characters in one episode because all these personalities were emerging. Like, she went through, she was vulnerable, she was strong, she was scared, she was defiant. Like, I think that I hope one day she can appreciate the scope of the work that she did on Voyager.
I don't think she's dismissing that work. And it could just be that this is the most recent thing.
And for sure it was more fun.
Yeah, and I think it was more collaborative. Well, obviously she was hanging out with one of the writers because she was dating.
Yes.
But I'm not sure how much Brandon and her, she was working out stories with. I mean, Terry had a very collaborative relationship with all of the actors on the show. And I think they really appreciate it, which is why they always talk him up the way they do.
Right. No, and back in the day, Star Trek was not like that at all.
Yeah.
They often had one dinner at the beginning of a season with each actor. I know the Voyager guys have talked about this, that there was always a dinner with the writers where they could talk about stuff that they wanted for their character. And then it was up to the writers to do whatever they wanted with that information.
I was interested in what she had to say about Jeri Taylor. It was nice to, Jeri Taylor's one of the people you don't hear a lot about, but she's obviously very important to Star Trek and especially to Voyager. And she had some really nice things to say about Jeri.
Yeah.
I think she's through the looking glass on Legacy. She's like, I'm ready if it's ready, but whatever,
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it is, I think it is a big responsibility to go from everything she's gone for to be the star of a show, which she kind of would be. I mean, it would be an ensemble show, but someone has, someone's number one on the call sheet, and that's going to be the captain of the ship.
Yep.
But that's, she doesn't want to get into that. Someone who did want to get into some of the weeds is Michelle Hurd. So I ran into her on the red carpet. Then Terry was walking behind her, and I think I grabbed him and brought him over. And so it kind of became Terry and her, and then he walked away, and then it was just her. So it was a bit of a madhouse, but let's take a listen.
I moved it up just for you.
The things that you do, you go above and beyond,
So, first of all, congratulations on all season 3. But I'm already going to talk about. I'm already moving on.
Please, go on. What are you going to talk about?
So you were on the red carpet a couple weeks ago, and you said something to the effect of they're going to do the Academy show, Section 31, and then they're going to do the Legacy show. Now, were you saying that like they're going to do it, or you're hoping they're going to do it?
I'm hoping they're going to do it. I'm trying to manifest it and just put it out there because I really feel like it's something that has to happen. This can't be the last time Rafi's voice is spoken. I think everybody wants to see Jack Crusher and 7 of 9 and Rafi navigate the galaxy. I've been doing cons lately. I just came from a con. Everybody is asking about Star Trek Legacy, and I just feel like we're teed up. It's ready. We're ready to go.
Hey, she was just spilling the beans on Legacy.
Yeah, I was just
There's
saying
beans to spill.
There's beans to spill.
That would be amazing.
It's been amazing. I mean, every time I talk to any fans, they're all like, when is Star Trek Legacy happening? When is it happening? And I'm like, I'm there with you. Manifest it. Write in. Put it on social media because I'd love to be there. There's no reason for us not to do it.
Is it awkward? Will it be awkward with Captain 7 and you as first officer? And I'm still unclear. What is your Facebook relationship status at the end of Picard?
It's complicated, right?
Complicated.
Yeah, it's gotta be, yeah.
As always, it's complicated. You can't have, maybe the two people aren't on the same page. I'll tell you, Rafi loves 7 of 9.
I think 7 loves Rafi.
I think so too.
So you would pick up on that storyline if Legacy were to happen?
Maybe.
You have to. A first officer and a captain with a pass. I mean, we already... I know. There's nothing to say.
Right.
I wish there was, but yeah, there's quite a few storylines that we talked from the beginning.
Absolutely.
About where that would go, and it's just such rich opportunity.
It's so full. It's so ready for that.
Yeah.
It literally writes itself.
So just so we could just put a huge button on this, as of now. No. But as of now, technically, since April last year, what work, if any, or discussions has there been about Legacy with Paramount, etc.?
Well, first of all, we have to remember that there has been a strike. So there's
5 months where that wasn't allowed. But
There's not. They have Star Trek that they're making, and they only have so much money, and streaming space.
That's right.
So there's currently not, but we're looking forward to whatever the Star Trek universe brings.
That's right, because with Star Trek, never say never.
Never say never.
They're just started shooting the Michelle Yeoh movie. What if they came back and said, you know what? What if we did a backdoor pilot style movie of the week, as it used to be called? Would that be enough? Is it possible, just thinking about logistics and sets?
Look, anything is possible. I mean, we're not going to. We certainly would be like, we're not going to do a movie. I think. For me, it would just be, I would need this crew. I would need this cast. I need these people, and as long as that was a possibility, we would figure something out.
Yeah.
A series is obviously
ideal
because there's so many stories to tell, and the 25th century in general in Star Trek is such a rich thing. But
people take the name Legacy and they think it'd be about the legacy star, but would it be more about the new cast? Like, would every episode have a former famous Voyager next-gen star in it?
Not necessarily, no. But I call it legacy mostly because of again, we shouldn't. I don't know what I shouldn't be talking about, but it because it was in the 25th century, and the idea of people from Deep Space Nine coming in and Rafi and Worf's son Alexander. Like, I could sit here and let's get a dry erase board. We'll break it right now.
Literally right now, we can literally write it down.
And there's just so many stories from that era.
I mean, just think about it. Like what you just said is a whole nother possibility, right? If we did that, that's a whole series right there. But we could also do that without having every legacy person come in. It's rich, it's full and rich, ready to go.
So the headline here clearly is that legacy is not something that's happening. When we talked a couple weeks ago about Michelle Hurd, she admitted she was not speaking out of school about how there's a plan. It was her manifesting that she wants legacy to happen.
Yeah.
Which some people took as like, oh, it's going to happen. And Terry was clear multiple times, even though he kept on talking about what he would do with legacy, he kept on making it clear it's not happening. I'm just talking about it hypothetically.
Right.
There's no secret plan. They're not lying. I know these people. It's not happening. It might happen. It could happen, but there isn't something happening in the background that they're all being quiet about. It's not that.
Yeah, everyone's said it over and over, made it very clear.
Yeah, I do think that, and we talked about this as we were reviewing Picard. I do think they yada 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 the whole relationship between Seven and Rafi. They just didn't want to deal with it in Picard. And so at least Terry's acknowledging, there's actually, that's something I could work with now, if we ever did legacy.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have to. Agreed.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Especially if it's your captain and your first officer.
Yeah. I did like to hear what they had to say about how just because the show is called Legacy doesn't mean it needs to be full of legacy people.
Right.
I like the name Legacy, but it does force this idea. And people are like, I don't want to see a thing all about the legacy. I want to see something new. And I would hope that there's multiple episodes where there's no legacy people. I mean, not counting, obviously, Jeri Ryan, who'd be in every episode. Obviously.
Right. There's your legacy right there.
And I guess someone, Riker and or Jean-Luc Picard would play the Charlie's Angel type role of like sending them off on their missions and that kind of thing. But
I hope there's a Bosley too.
I want them to have that same exact, that little speakerphone, those old 70s speakers.
And you just see the back of his head and he's in a hot tub.
Yeah. I mean, this TOS had things like that. There were things that looked just like kind of like that.
Yeah.
Which was obviously before those. I don't know who knows when those things were invented. Anyway, but Michelle Hurd is just like, she's such a big ball of energy. It's like, it's hard to keep up with her. She's great.
It's very frustrating to me that I have not met her because I've been a fan of hers since her soap opera days in like the late 80s, early 90s. and I've been following her career since then, and I have never come face to face with her, and I just adore her.
She's great. And she's so into the idea of carrying on the story.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I spoke to another pair that came down the red carpet together, were Michael Dorn and Marina Sirtis. I talked to them about their work on Picard and their thoughts on Legacy.
Movie.com. How you doing?
Marina, you could join in.
Hello.
Recently, we talked to Johnny, who is a little busy to be here. And he said he felt he did his best work in Picard Season 3. First, do you agree? And do you guys think you did your best work in Season 3 of Picard?
Actually, it was very good. I think we all were good, but I don't think it's my best work. I actually thought that First Contact was my best work.
Yeah.
I liked what I did, and I thought it was exciting, and I thought, I was halfway through the season, I was having a blast. But I think we've always been good. So I don't think that it's like, oh my God, they were, so much better. What do you think?
I think Jonathan said that because he got to do stuff that he'd never done before. It was like he was outside the box for him. I don't know that it was my best work. I don't think I was in it enough for it to be my best work, but it was fun. It was definitely fun.
It was designed by Terry to be a quote, send-off, but did it, I noticed at least with Patrick, it seems to have reinvigorated this desire to do more. Is that the case with both of you guys?
I don't think that people have a clue what's going to happen. I really don't. I think that they look at something and they may have thought of it as a send-off for us, and then something happens and they go, you know what, maybe we should maybe continue, but you never know. You don't believe so.
I don't believe it's going to continue.
And I don't know either. I have no idea. I wouldn't say, oh, we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. I just don't know.
I think if we were going to continue, they would have ridden the success of Picard. Do you know what I mean? And then come on the back of that, and they didn't. So I'm not sure that it's going to continue.
But Terry said he recently talked to you, Michael, about the Klingon Empire and what's going on in the 25th century and Alexander. So have you put thought into what you'd at least like to do on the show?
Yeah, I think that the Alexander, his son, is a good story because Worf has been a terrible father, and I think that it brings a sort of reality or realism to it. But once again, his ideas are great. And I think it's a good idea, but you got to go to the higher ups and see what they say.
Marina, you said you didn't get to do much because they pretty much brought you in for the second half. Are there certain kinds of things you would like to stretch into to show?
Well, being as I'm very dramatic generally, I'd love to do more comedy actually, because it's like in real life I'm funny, right? Ask my friends, and I never get to be funny. So I would like to do, like in First Contact, I got to be funny. I'm not complaining. I'm an actor.
You got all the good lines. You and Frank
always got all the good lines. Always did.
Hey, because he's a straight man. That's his thing. He says something and everybody reacts and they think he's funny, but he's looking around going,
why is everyone laughing?
Why is everyone laughing at me?
Yeah.
Which is why they do it, of course. Now, Michelle Hurd, who would be part of it, said that she would, I don't know if she meant she would only do it if you were part of it, but she feels like it's almost essential for you and her to be paired up again, because
I think it was one of the pairings that they thought, oh well, this is a decent idea, but they didn't count on the chemistry and they didn't count on the sort of stuff that we were doing back and forth with each other.
It really worked. That relationship really worked.
And there was talk. There's always talk, but yeah, I would say so. I would say they're missing the opportunity if they don't pair us up.
Yeah, I think there's a series there actually.
I think there's
a comedy.
No.
Well, if he's in it, yeah, probably. No, I think if they were really smart, that would be the way to go.
I think Marina's right, about what it is the best material Jonathan Frakes got, and that's why he says it was his best work. It was his best work, and it was great material for him. And I think that. I actually think the most fun I've seen her was on First Contact, which is funny because Michael Dorn thinks that's his best work also.
Well, she brought it up as well. She didn't get to be funny. I think that's the thing. She wants to be funny.
Right. Which she can be funny. And I just think the same way that like Jonathan, like Riker got more interesting when he got a little bit of Frakes in there. And I think that Deanna Troi would have been a lot more interesting with just Marina turned up all full volume is too much, but more of Marina in Troi would have made her a better character.
I think Picard served her better than Insurrection and Nemesis.
Yes.
And Generations.
Yes, I would agree.
But she did great work in First Contact and obviously in quite a few episodes of Next Generation.
Yeah.
Dorn's best work, I think, was in Deep Space Nine.
I think it was on Next Generation, actually.
I mean, it's art, That's a whole podcast we could do on.
That's true.
I mean, there's so many episodes. He's in so much Star Trek. I think neither of them are expecting Legacy to happen, but they're on board if it does.
Yeah, she seemed pretty convinced it's not happening, I would say. He seemed a little more, on the fence about it. I think they'd both be into it if it happened, and they both, like you said, they think it's not going to.
Fair enough.
All right, so while you were doing these interviews, Tony, because I listened to all of them, you had a moment. Now, first of all, people need to understand what it's like doing a red carpet before we talk about this moment that happened, because I've done red carpets too. And basically, you've got this huge list of people that might come by you, a massive list of questions that you've got as many of them crammed into your head as you can have, and you've got papers or a phone somewhere with all the other ones. And as people are going by, you're talking to someone. You also have to keep your eye on who's going by because you don't want to miss them. And sometimes they'll bring you someone, and then you want to talk to them, but you see someone else and you don't want them to miss it. So while you were talking to Marina, she noticed you looking elsewhere. So you had just asked her about.
Well, first of all, this actually wasn't the red carpet. This was the press room. So I had talked to Marina like 2 hours earlier.
Right.
Then they're coming off stage, and I hadn't had a chance to talk to Brent. So I was talking to Marina, and Brent walked right by her and stopped and talked to the reporter next to me. And I was trying to get his attention just to make sure I could talk to him before he walked out the room, because the door was right there. And she noticed. So I'm asking her about Gene Roddenberry, and it turned into this.
You got to know Gene Roddenberry at the beginning. What do you think he would think of the arc of your character, who he helped create, and through both Next Generation, after he was gone, into the movies, and now even into Picard?
Well, Gene always thought that mental health would be as important as physical health by the 24th century. And as is the case in very, very, very many cases, he was ahead of his time, because mental health is important already in the 21st century, where we're already dealing with that, or trying to deal with that. So he was a visionary, and people poo-pooed him, didn't take him seriously, but he knew what he was doing. Are you paying attention to me, or are you watching Brent?
Jesus
Christ, that is so fucking rude.
I thought he looked over, and I...
You're supposed to be interviewing me, and you're looking at him. Okay. Hi. Hello, I'm Marina. Have we met? Okay, hello.
Hi. Hey. I don't know if you've met Marina yet, but she's fantastic.
I've ruined myself for this. I've ruined my life for pissing off Marina Sirtis.
You know what? If you hadn't pissed off Marina Sirtis, well, you'd be unusual.
Well, I've been asking everyone. Gene Roddenberry won this award in 1980. Same award. You're uniquely one of the people who knew Gene Roddenberry, and he, created Data. What do you think he would think of how Data evolved after he was gone, into the movies, and now into, Picard?
I think he would think it went according to plan. Because one thing he said to me was, from the very beginning, when I first met him, he said, what I want is for Data to get more and more and more and more human as time goes on, and by the end be almost human, but still not. And that's kind of where we are, I think.
So, if they had a chance to do more, everyone else seems to be on board. I just want to get, are you also on board if Legacy ever happens?
You know, I really don't even want to weigh in on it. I mean, it's hypothetical at the moment, and so, you know, I'd be happy to do you know, another ER if they want to do it, or you know, I just like to work, and so if they came and I wasn't doing something else, I'd love to do it.
Well, I think what Brent Spiner was trying to tell you was that you're in good company. I think that was I thought that was nice of him. I mean, I get what it's like when you're talking to someone and you think that they're not paying attention, but I think you were paying attention, and she just misunderstood what was going on.
I still felt bad about it. I talked to some other people afterwards, and I got a text, and people were like, don't worry about it, it's fine, everything's fine, everyone thinks it's fine and funny. But at the moment it was mortifying because I have Council Troy upset at me. So
yeah, no, I understand, but it is, I have to say, it was funny for me to listen to. I was like, wow, you just got yelled at by Counselor Troy. So, but we all know what she's like. I mean, I love her. She's on my interview wish list for sure. But you know, she says what's on her mind in the moment, and that's what she does. Indeed. That's who she is.
Yeah, she's very funny at conventions. The crowds always love because she's so frank and honest. So I got to be the straight man, I guess, to her routine, and you know, I guess I should feel honored.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what Brent Spiner was basically trying to tell you.
Yeah, and I thought I always like to talk to people about Gene. We did this last week when I asked about Gene with John Delancey. I just like hearing Gene stories. So I'm glad they both at least talked a bit about Gene. We got some content out of that.
All right. Well, next up is our last member of the Next Gen crew, Mr. Will Wheaton.
That's well, nice to see you again, man. I think the last time we talked, I don't know if you were not letting us know, but you were saying you still wanted to get onto Lower Decks. Mm-hmm. So congratulations.
Thank you. It was a really fun cameo. It was really silly.
I know you had a pitch. This wasn't really what you had in mind, but what did you think of going kind of a early West? Did you have to rethink of what it's like to play that kind of Wesley?
No, the real fun in that was leaning into the humor of Lower Decks and leaning into the stylized kind of like surrealism of seeing Wesley at the Academy for the first time in, almost 30 years. And McMahon directed me, and we just kept making him squeakier and making him sillier and making him nerdier and just trying all these crazy, ridiculous things. We did so many silly things that I cannot even remember all of them. But it was such a fun day and really a fun moment to tie me and Next Gen and our episode Lower Decks that inspired the series all back together. The thing that I love about it the most in canon is it puts Wesley and Mariner at the Academy together, which means that Wesley and Mariner have some kind of friendship or at least knowledge of one another, which is going to end up backing up a lot of my fan fiction.
Well, you still have this idea of the 25th century, I think you referred to him as Time Lord Wesley. Are you still hoping that we could see that in Lower Decks, or maybe even join these folks over here again?
I have learned that we should never say absolutely not, and we should also never be like really overly committed to making something happen, right? All of that said, anyone who knows anything about me knows how much Star Trek means to me. They know how much the actors, how much the franchise, how much the universe means to me. As much as I am really done being an actor, as much as I love being a writer and I love being a host on an audiobook narrator, Star Trek is the thing that I would absolutely show up to work for, because it's given me so much that it would really be a beautiful opportunity to be able to appreciate it and embrace it and love it with the knowledge that I really am part of this thing now, and this is a way to return to it in a way that I think nobody ever would have expected.
And you're kind of in it now again because you're doing Ready Room for Discovery right now. Are you done yet?
Yeah, we're filming Ready Room for Discovery's final season right now. We're just about done. We're about halfway through. It's a terrific season, and I should not say anything else because I will inadvertently spoiler something. I will inadvertently break an NDA, and I will inadvertently get fined $1 million. So
they've said it's different. They've said it's a different season. It's more fun. It's crazy adventure, that kind of thing. Are you feeling that vibe? Is it?
I'm just going to lean right back on what I just said.
Okay.
I'm really afraid that I'm going to inadvertently say...
But you're liking it.
I absolutely love it, yeah.
You seen it all?
I have.
I'm so glad he got to do his Lower Decks appearance. I know that was something he wanted, something Mike wanted, so it's nice that it worked out, and it sounds like it was fun to do.
Yeah, I wanted to see 25th century or 24th century, I guess, in this case, Traveler Wesley. But it's fun to see, and the way it's all connected. I mean, he was so excited. I could just see it in his eyes that Wesley knew was pals with Mariner.
Yeah.
And Nick Locarno, so just now that it's all fits together for him. He is really a super fan and part of the franchise all at the same time.
Look, he's been through it all. There are people who hate Wesley. There was a whole era of people hating Wesley. And so I think it's been really nice for him to be welcomed back this way and to be such a part of things. And he's doing the Ready Room, so he's talking to everybody who works on every show.
The one downside is I'm guessing there's not going to be a Ready Room for Prodigy because, it's not on
Paramount Plus.
Exactly. But they're doing, he's right in the middle of it for Discovery. He seems to be enjoying it, but doesn't want to talk about it because he's terrified someone's going to sue him. But
yes, he's clearly signed a lot of paperwork.
I hope they do something special, an extended version of the Ready Room for the final episode. I hope there's got a lot of good behind the scenes packages for both filming it and then filming the bonus content. I think the Ready Room has grown as, especially those packages, those behind the scenes things they do, I think are really good.
Yeah, they've gotten more interesting and more in depth. Let's wrap things up with a movie star. So Nicolas Cage was at the Saturns, and we all know he's talked about wanting to be on Star Trek. And Tony is a huge Nicolas Cage fan. And then you two came face to face. Let's listen.
Hi, Nick. I'm with the big Star Trek site. Can I talk to you quickly about Star Trek? So last year you said something to the effect of, I don't want to be in Star Wars, I want to be in Star Trek. Is that true?
Well, my passion is more Trekkie. I grew up watching Shatner and Nimoy and Bones, and those stories on television I thought had a lot of wisdom and socially relevant commentary, so I've always been partial to Star Trek.
Has there ever been any overtures either to you or from you?
Well, I've been hearing some talk about it, but nothing real. No.
I mean, recently, like now?
Ever since one of the folks down there who said, "Do you want to be Pedro wants you to be in Star Wars?" I said, "Well, that's not where I roll. I'd rather be on the Enterprise." There was a few comments from Paramount, but who knows?
What kind of character are you, a hero or villain?
I'd want to be on the bridge, I'd want to be on
Starfleet.
I want to be on the Enterprise, yeah.
I think that can be arranged.
Who knows?
Tony, you talked to Nicolas Cage.
I was so excited. I immediately texted my brother. I'm like, I just talked to Nicolas Cage.
You are so excited. Even I could tell, over text or whatever. It was great.
When he was coming down the red carpet, I texted out. There was a picture of him and Todd Stashwick, and I said, here comes someone who's been in Star Trek and someone who wants to be in Star Trek.
Right.
Because I don't know how many people remembered that he was. But, it sounds like someone at Paramount noticed.
Yeah. Yeah.
My bet is that there, he probably has a very specific thing. He wants to be Starfleet hero on the bridge. I'm just not sure there's enough room for that because they've already got plenty of heroes, the kinds of roles that he might fit perfectly. Because you could just imagine a kind of unhinged captain of another ship who's gone crazy or something.
Or some crazy admiral. I don't know.
Yeah, but would he want to, because it's so playing to type, would he want to do that? He really wants, he wants to be the good guy hero maybe. So, but I mean, I think it would be great. I think
there's always a way.
He's an Oscar-winning actor, yet another Oscar winner. Paul Giamatti's going to soon be an Oscar winner. The world is full of these people who want to be in Star Trek.
Yes,
Paramount.
And it is crazy not to do something with them.
I mean, Paul Giamatti, it sounds like, will do anything. He doesn't care.
Also, he could, it's easier for him to lose himself in a role than Nicolas Cage. Like, he can't look at Nicolas Cage and not be thinking, oh, it's Nicolas Cage.
Right.
So for our bits of the week, we're teaming up because there's another interview. I mean, there are more interviews, and you'll see we've got a lot of good stuff on the site. But one of the people that you talk to, in addition to the bionics and all these other cool people, was Zach Galligan was there, who people always think of as Gremlins guy, but a lot of us know that he was in a Voyager episode.
I had forgotten. So I needed you, because I shared the list of all the celebrities who were coming to the red carpet. You said, oh, Zach was in Voyager. I totally forgot about that. And I had thought, it just must have been a random actor job in the 90s. But it's more than that. So let's hear what he had to say.
That's right. So guess what I'm going to ask you about?
Star Trek?
Yeah.
Star Trek Voyager?
Yeah. So how did it end up that you were in an episode of Star Trek Voyager?
So I had tried out for a couple of other Star Trek series, and they were like, do you want to come in for Voyager? And because I had actually, back in the day, I had worked with Cate Mulgrew. She had played my mom in a Civil War movie, which is strange because she's only about 5 years older than me. But anyway, she's always played older roles, even though she's younger. And so I went in and I tried out for it, and I don't know, I guess they just thought it was a good fit, and I did the shoot with Bob Picardo, who was from Gremlins 2, and Cate, who played my mom, and just it was like being with old friends. It was a lot of fun, and I got to do all the things that I wanted to do, have a phaser and a tricorder and beam up to the Voyager. It was great.
So you're kind of a fan.
The first convention I ever went to was a Star Trek convention at the Statler Waldorf in Manhattan, 1974, with George Takei and James Doohan. I was 10 years old, and I bought comics, and I bought a couple of Tribbles. So I've been a Trekkie ever since I was yay high. I'm old.
So when they said you're going to play a Starfleet officer who's a double agent with species 847, you knew exactly what that meant.
I knew exactly what it meant, yeah. That's one of the reasons why I did it. And also I knew that, once you do an episode of Star Trek, all the Trekkies, they've got to get your autograph. They're completionists. They got to get everything. And so that's great, too.
Right, because you're a collectible card, the Rittenhouse collectible card.
I am a collectible card, which is always fun to do.
Do you remember what roles you tried out for before? Like, was it on TNG? Was it recurring or major roles?
The Connor Trenier role on Enterprise.
How far along did that go?
I think it went like maybe a couple, and then, you get weeded out, stuff like that. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else, but I don't think so. I think it was just...
That would be after Voyager.
That's correct.
You said you did some stuff before, like on Next Gen.
No. If I said that, I was mistaken.
Okay, before we get to the Enterprise news from him, before that, I just want to say I rewatched his Voyager scenes today, and man, he got to do it all. He got to get a Vulcan neck pinch, and he got to have a phaser, and he got to beam up, and he got to wear a Starfleet uniform, and he got to die, and he got to transform into a monster, basically. So he, in his 5 minutes or however long it was, he got to do pretty much everything. He was in the Delta Flyer. He was on Voyager. He was in sickbay. He did everything. So I love that he's a huge fan, and that it meant so much to him, and that he really experienced the whole gamut of all of it.
The full Star Trek.
Yes, the full Star Trek.
I was surprised how much of a fan he was. So it was delightful to see his delight to talk about Star Trek. Just like Nick Cage, he probably wasn't expecting to talk about Star Trek, but he was so ready to do so. There was a bit of a confusion because he sounded like he had previously gone out for other roles before the Voyager role. But then when I pressed him on that, he actually talked about Trip in Enterprise, which would have been after the Voyager role.
Right. You know what? I'm glad they cast Connor. I think Connor Trinneer's a pretty perfect Trip Tucker.
Yeah, it would have been a different character. Not that he couldn't have done it. I think he could have done it for sure. It is interesting that he went out for that role, and it sounded like it went down the road a bit.
Yeah, like at least a couple of rounds.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
So some of what we've talked about today is already on the site. There's going to be more stuff coming up on the site, people I talked to, and all together, except for being yelled at by Marina Sirtis, it was a wonderful experience and quite productive.
Yeah, look, you got a lot of great stuff. I was so jealous watching all those celebrities, knowing that you were going to be talking to them, but I was also just really happy that you got to do that. It's fun.
So that's it for another episode of All Access Star Trek. We'll be back soon with more, as we're still a few weeks away from Discovery Season 5.
All right, bye-bye.